He said he spoke to God Roch Theriault, the prophet of pain, self-proclaimed prophet and the architect of hell on earth, cult leader. Behind the promise of peace was pain, control, and brutal punishment.
Ei! O quê? Vocês, venham cá agora! Venham aqui!
We thought he was a savior, but he was the devil in disguise. When the truth was uncovered, the world stood in horror. This is not fiction. This is real. Today you're about to hear some things that might disturb you. You might feel nauseous, even sick to your stomach. So, watch this video at your own risk. Today's story is not just a simple true crime story. It's beyond that. And by the end of the video, you'll understand why. This story is about a man who used his convincing powers to create a massive cult. But over time, he physically, emotionally, and sexually abused his own cult members. After listening to today's story, you will hesitate to even call this cult leader a human. His charm was so powerful that every woman in the cult desired his attention. In fact, all the women in the cult wanted his attention all the time. The cult originally started with just 8 to 10 people, but over time within the cult itself, through its own members reproducing, at least 20 to 22 children were added to the group. However, even those children faced the same level of assault and abuse. Cult groups never end for a good. They would get impressed to such an extent that they felt joining the clinic was the best decision of their lives. But all those things had no real point. They were completely absurd. However, Roch's confidence played the biggest role in his entire journey of mind control. Gradually, more and more people started joining the clinic, investing their money, selling off their assets, and contributing to the expansion of the clinic. The clinic was full of women who constantly sought Roch's attention because of his charisma. These women continuously hovered around him, trying to grab his attention. But Giselle did not like this at all. So she suggested to Roch that they should get married. After marriage, Giselle's expectations from Roch increased even more. However, on the very day of their wedding, right after the ceremony, Roch told Giselle to sit in the back seat of the car while he seated all his female followers in the front. Throughout the journey back, he openly flirts with those women in front of Giselle, making it clear to her what her value and importance were. He made it evident that even after marriage he would continue to pay attention to other women, and that Giselle was not as important to him as she had hoped. One day, a very distressed man arrived at the clinic. His wife had leukemia, and Roch told him that he would examine her. Roch took the man and his wife to the hospital. However, when the doctors and nurses began treating the woman, Roch started accusing the entire hospital staff of not taking proper care of her. He declared that no one in the hospital actually cared about her, except him. Roch then removed the leukemia patient from the hospital and admitted her to his clinic. He claimed that she only needed grape juice and organic food to recover. Naturally, she passed away. This incident attracted police attention to the group. News about these occurrences began to spread, and the churches that Roch was associated with cut all ties with him. Roch took this as a sign that he needed to elevate his level of mind control even further. Within his cult, Roch had sexual relations with every woman. As a result, the atmosphere of the cult started becoming increasingly disturbing. To manage this situation, Roch commanded that all the women in the cult be married off to different male partners within the group. However, these marriages were not legally valid. He conducted these fake ritualistic marriages, and the essence of all these ceremonies was the same, that women were meant to obey men. Giselle's frustration grew because this was not the marriage she had envisioned. She was deeply frustrated because, after their wedding, 10 to 20 more people had become involved in their relationship, and an unborn child had also been added to the mix. Giselle was pregnant with Roch's child. One day, Giselle told Roch that he should disband the group because this was not right. She was not okay with having so many people involved in her marriage. The moment she voiced this, Roch did something she had never expected. He punched Giselle directly in the face, breaking her jaw. Then he threw her into a room and locked her inside for 2 days without food or water. Due to these actions, churches distanced themselves from Roch, and the police started paying closer attention to the cult and its clinic. Realizing this, Roch decided to shut down his so-called healthy living clinic and relocate with his followers. In 1978, Roch rebranded himself as God's messenger and told his followers that he had a vision. The world would end in 1979. His manipulation had become so extreme that people began following him even more devotedly. They moved far away and set up a new settlement in the mountains. By this time, Roch's previous policies of healthy living, which forbade smoking and drinking, had completely dissolved. Now, Roch himself smoked, drank, had sexual relations with all the women, and manipulated everyone in the group. His manipulation was so severe that he instructed one of the women in the cult to seduce the owner of a nearby grocery store so that she could manipulate him into providing supplies for the cult. The woman did exactly as he ordered because she wasn't the only one blindly obeying Roch. All the cult members now saw him as their messiah, believing that he was their only means of survival. They even began calling him Papa. Some referred to him as the reincarnation of Moses. The manipulation was so deep that Roch even declared that all the women in the cult would now marry him. You might be wondering, weren't they already married? Well, Roch discarded all previous marriages because, as the leader of the cult, he could do whatever he wanted. He invalidated those marriages and married every woman himself. By this point, the members had lost their ability to think critically. No one questioned these actions. Everything happened smoothly, and everyone silently accepted it. The same year that Roch and his followers moved to the mountains, 1978, a horrifying event took place, the Jonestown Massacre. That incident brought increased police scrutiny to cults and similar groups. As a result, law enforcement began paying closer attention to Roch's cult. Eventually, the police arrested Roch, but his charming and friendly demeanor convinced them that there was nothing suspicious about him. Roch himself claimed that his group was not a cult, that every member was free to do as they wished. Since the police found no concrete evidence against him, because none of his followers spoke up, they let him go. The real Abydos was not found because, by 2014, Roch had around 8 wives and 26 children, whom he did not like at all. Whenever Roch got angry, he would grab one of his children, call them the devil, and assault them in different ways. He used to hang children over the fire, hang them upside down from a tree, and tell the other children to throw stones at them. Sometimes he would urinate on a child while making the others watch. He would gather all the children and their mother together and, as a group, assault that child, beat them, and torture them. After these brutal assaults, he would show the mother what had happened to her child, making her suffer. Roch enjoyed this. Roch had a twisted mindset regarding women. He believed that a woman should do whatever a man says, especially whatever he said. He would gather all his wives on his bed and order them to massage him. Meanwhile, they would start fighting for his attention, and Roch enjoyed watching this. It made him feel superior. The most disturbing part, any sexual activities he engaged in with his wives happened in front of their children. These children were forced to witness everything. Afterward, Roch would urinate and defecate on both the women and the children. Sometimes he would command them to use their mouths to clean him. How messed up is that? Those children had never seen the world outside the cult. They didn't know what normal meant, so they thought all of this was normal. If any cult member tried to leave, Roch would take a hammer and start beating them. The punishments kept getting worse. Roch made his followers break their own legs with sledgehammers, forced them to sit on a burning stove, and even commanded them to shoot each other in the shoulder. He once ordered a member to shoot another cult member. One of the women in the cult was pregnant. One day, due to hunger, she accidentally ate 2 or 3 extra pancakes. When Roch found out, he broke her ribs. Then he ordered her husband to cut off one of her fingers. When the husband hesitated, Roch said, "If you want to be a man, you have to learn how to teach your woman a lesson." After this, Roch banned the couple from meeting or having sex. A new rule was made in the cult. No man and woman could talk to or touch each other unless Roch was present. Sometimes Roch would randomly stand up, look up at the sky, and scream, "God, don't make me do this," convincing his followers that everything he was doing was because God commanded it. Before joining the cult, a man named Guy had been in a mental hospital. Around the same time, Roch's first 2 sons, Roch Jr. and Francois, from his ex-wife, also joined the cult. To celebrate, Roch held a grand ceremony. He handed over all 26 of his other children from his 8 wives to Guy, the man who had been in a mental hospital. Roch no longer cared about those children. His focus was now on his first 2 sons. The very next morning, a horrifying incident occurred. A 2-year-old child named Samuel was punched in his private parts by Guy, a fully grown adult. The punch was so brutal that the child started vomiting and struggled to urinate. Roch declared, "I will operate on this child and heal him." To stop the baby from crying, he beat him. Then he attempted surgery on the child, but Samuel died. Later, Roch's second wife, Giselle, wrote a book revealing the true reason for Samuel's death. She claimed that Samuel's face was already bruised before Guy punched him. Roch had actually ordered a circumcision to fix the child's urinary problem. But during the procedure, the child wasn't given anesthesia. Instead, alcohol-soaked cotton was stuffed into his mouth to keep him quiet. The baby didn't die from the circumcision itself. He choked on the alcohol-soaked cotton and died from poisoning and suffocation. Guy was blamed for Samuel's death. His punishment: castration. Cult members held Guy down on a table, tied his testicles with a plastic band, and slowly sliced them off with a knife. Afterward, his wounds were treated with salt water. Guy survived the brutal castration, but eventually escaped the cult. Meanwhile, Roch continued to preach on the radio, talking about the end of the world. The police were listening but had no solid proof to arrest him until Guy came forward. Guy reported everything to the police. His statements, combined with other reports, finally gave the authorities enough reason to go after Roch. The police arrested many cult members for the death of Samuel. Many cases were also filed against Roch and his wife through Guy because they had Guy castrated. Basically, if we put it simply, Guy snitched. But what else could he do? He had endured so much and eventually went to the police himself to report everything happening there. After all these cases, a judgment was passed that Roch would have to stay in jail for 2 years. Roch served those 2 years, but the one who had filed the complaints, Guy, was sent back to a mental hospital because the police figured out that he was not mentally stable and belonged in the hospital. During Roch's 2 years in jail, many people left the cult. However, there were still some followers who were completely convinced by Roch's words and never left his side. By 1984, 2 years later, Roch came back. The remaining members and Roch opened a bakery near Burn River. However, nothing changed. Roch did not reform after his time in jail. The punishments only became more brutal. One time, due to low sales in their bakery, Roch pulled out his wife Giselle's teeth. After this, Gabrielle ran away from Roch, but for some reason she couldn't live without him and eventually returned. By this time, all Roch had to do was speak, and within a single command, 20 to 22 people were ready to follow his orders. One time, in a fit of rage, Roch threw a hunting knife at Giselle, which struck her thigh. After hurting her, he went straight to sleep as if he didn't care at all. When he woke up, he saw that the wound on Giselle's thigh had worsened. So what did Roch do? He put his entire hand inside the wound, reopened it, and then started pouring boiling water into it. After pouring the water, he used a stick to poke inside the wound. During this process, Giselle lost consciousness twice. Can you even imagine how messed up someone's mind has to be to do something like this? A week later, when the wound worsened, Roch took olive oil and salt and rubbed it inside her wound for 2 hours. Besides this, Roch would take pliers and squeeze Giselle's chest until she bled. He would take injection needles, fill them with random chemicals, and inject them into cult members, then break the needles inside their skin. Roch would use torches to burn his wife's private parts. He would cut off the fingers of cult members and force them to shoot each other. One day, after finishing work, Gabrielle noticed that something was coming out of her private parts. It was her uterus. It had prolapsed about 3 inches outside her body. When she told Roch about it, he punched her private parts in an attempt to push it back inside. When that didn't work, he tied a string around it and tried to pull it out. Many of these women would leave their small children outside in freezing temperatures because they believed that freezing to death was a better fate than what Roch would do to them. These mothers genuinely believed that a slow death in the cold was better for their children than facing Roch's torture. And yet, even after all of this, these women refused to leave Roch. Maybe their mindset about relationships was completely broken. Maybe they just had no idea where to go or what to do after leaving the cult. Maybe that's why they never escaped. But one day, one woman finally gathered the courage to say, "I'm done with this. I can't live here. This isn't living. This is torture. I refuse to be tortured every day." She directly told Roch, "I want to leave." "I'm not staying here." Roch agreed and said, "You can leave tomorrow." "That's fine, but you have to leave your 8-year-old daughter behind," because Roch wanted to marry the 8-year-old girl. Just imagine the trauma that mother must have gone through. One morning, Roch got extremely angry at a cult member named Claude. For some reason, he took a long elastic band, tied it tightly around her private parts, and pulled it so tight that it cut off blood flow, causing severe swelling and infection. After the swelling, Roch personally cut off her private parts and then reached inside her body with his own hands to pull out the infected tissue. Then, to seal the wound, he took a scorching hot iron rod and pressed it against her wound to close it. At this point, Roch wasn't even pretending to be some divine messenger anymore. Now he had found a new game: playing doctor. He started performing operations on people in the most horrific ways imaginable. Roch got another chance to play surgeon when his wife, Solange, complained of stomach pain that had lasted for days. Roch decided to treat her. He tied up his wife and started choking her. Then he drank 3 to 4 beers, took a tube, and inserted it inside his wife. After that, he started punching her stomach repeatedly. Then he put another tube in her mouth and ordered the cult members to blow air into it and then suck the air back out. Finally, Roch took a large knife and made a 5-inch deep incision near her ribs. Then he put his hand inside the wound, grabbed whatever he could, and pulled it out. What he pulled out was her intestines. The other cult members stitched her up, but Roch told her to take a cold bath. By the next morning, Solange had bled to death. Her last words were that she had never imagined suffering so much in her life. Roch had murdered Solange, yet he still played the victim, claiming that she was his favorite wife and that now he wanted to die too. But he said that every time he tried to die, God stopped him. Then one day, Roch declared, "I am a man, but I am pregnant." He claimed that the child inside him was the reincarnation of Solange. This was insanity at its peak. After Solange's death, Roch completely lost his mind. He even started playing with her dead body. The body was exhumed from the ground, and Roch took out Solange's skull. He drilled a hole in the skull and then had sex with it. He was having sex with his wife's skull because he missed her. Roch had also preserved Solange's body parts, kidneys, liver, intestines, in jars. He used to make out with his wife's body parts. Now, all the followers of the cult were terrified that Roch might start drinking, because whenever Roch got drunk, the members would scatter into the jungle and hide. Many even managed to escape the cult. One woman, Gabrielle, wanted to escape but couldn't. She couldn't live without Roch. One day after drinking, Roch called Gabrielle to the dining table. He told her to place her hand on the table. Then Roch picked up a knife and stabbed her hand through the table, pinning her there. Gabrielle's blood kept pouring out for 45 minutes. She just stared at Roch, and he just sat there drinking, while she screamed in pain. After 45 minutes, Roch looked at Gabrielle's hand, and it had turned completely blue. He knew it was time for another operation. Roch took another knife and started cutting off Gabrielle's arm from the area between her shoulder and elbow. But the knife was a carpet knife, and it couldn't cut through the bone. Roch then called his wives and told them to break the bone. They tried, but nothing worked. Finally, one of Roch's wives brought a meat cleaver, and Roch used it to completely sever Gabrielle's arm. Then Roch took an axe and chopped off one of Gabrielle's breasts. And after all this, he took her to a Chinese restaurant. Why? Because he wanted to humiliate her in public. He took her to the restaurant, started talking to the staff and said, "Look at her. Look at what she looks like. Look at her body." He publicly shamed her because her body was mutilated. How messed up is this whole thing? When Roch used the axe to cut off Gabrielle's breast, he also hit her head, leaving a huge wound. Gabrielle finally ran away. She hid in the forest for 2 days, unconscious. When she regained consciousness, maggots had infested her head wound, and insects had started laying eggs inside it. When Gabrielle finally reached the hospital, doctors were horrified. They kept asking how this had happened, but Gabrielle kept making up stories to protect Roch. She refused to say he was responsible, but doctors reported the case to the police anyway. The police arrived and had to convince Gabrielle to tell the truth. Finally, she confessed everything, what Roch had done to her, what happened in the cult, and who he really was. When the police reached the cult's camp, everyone had fled. It took 6 weeks for the police to find and arrest Roch. They also caught several other members. Roch was charged with second-degree murder of Solange. In court, Roch himself admitted everything. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. Even while he was in jail, many women from his cult still waited for him. Then, on February 26, 2011, at 63 years old, Roch was found dead in his jail cell. His cellmate, Matthew McDonald, slit Roch's throat out of frustration. When the prison staff arrived, Matthew handed them the knife and said, "That piece of esht is down in the range. Here's the knife. I've sliced him up." At the end of the day, who was Roch? A brilliant, intelligent, yet criminally manipulative man.